Given the weightage on the marks assigned for the professional skills elements in all strategic professional papers, including Advanced Performance Management, APM, challenging papers such as APM would definitely rely heavily not only the technical marks performance among the candidates, but also the ability to score well in professional skills marks. Guys, have you got any clues and the techniques in doing well on scoring professional skills marks? Hello, my name is Tze Kang Chan, the expert tutor for Advanced Performance Management, APM. This topic explainer, it's about dealing with professional skills in APM. How exactly professional skills marks form such a huge component or significant parts of the marks and the weightage in the whole of the exam? Well, I'm pretty sure students will be aware the weightage of professional marks that carry in each sitting of the examination. Here's the answer. With the 20% of the marks, which is 1/5 of the marks in the exam paper, which made up of the following components of the professional skills, namely communications, analysis and evaluation, skepticism, last but not least, commercial acumen. So how exactly the techniques that you should demonstrate, the evidences that you should be shown in the answer to tell and convince the marker in granting the marks on the following skills in your exam script. First and foremost, let's take a look at what the syllabus and the study guide says about all the skills. Firstly, communications. These are the skills that evidenced by be able to present the answer with a suitable and appropriate format. Other than that, the tune, the language, the structure, the clarity of the presentation for both the theoretical and the calculations answer will need to be presented at the right response option. So what it meant, it's always required and suggested heavily to the students in building and reflecting into your answering habits. So what exactly are the suggested answering habits to demonstrate professional skills on communications? For questions 1, as you may know, it is quite common. Reports will be required in responding to all the tasks required and embedded in the scenario. As long as the student is able to present the answer in the proper report format, followed by, for all the questions, including questions 1, when you manage to pick up the task embedded in the scenarios that found in the exhibit respectively, pick up the task, paste it into your answer. In each of the tasks, should you have more than 1 point of findings for articulation? Take for instance, when you want to comment or evaluate about the performance report or the KPI by addressing fitness or fit for purpose, you may start with the heading, fit for purpose. In this particular heading, articulate the point in the clear, logical, and concise manner. Preferably, each of the point of articulations will be kept in one paragraph rather than just one single sentence. So that will allow clear evidences on the written answers in showing communication skills. Last but not least, without forgetting the need, any calculation or computational work, please remember, present the working with clear labeling to connect back to the answer in the words file by showing the working in the spreadsheets provided in the platform. Apart from communications, the second key professional skills, analysis and evaluations. But that is one of the most challenging skills that many students would usually have difficulty in getting an idea. What do we mean by analysis and evaluations? Well, guys, looking at the keywords on the syllabus, investigate, looking at the information informing the evidences, assessing and applying suitable judgment and opinions, finally appraising, judging the information objectively. These are all the key elements to demonstrate analysis and evaluation skills. How do we reflect these skills into questions that involve tasks that involve numerical analysis? In other words, number crunching tasks. First and foremost, guys, do not just repeat the number as mentioned and provided in the appendix. Take for example, do not just repeatedly saying the revenue as shown in the report have grown by 5%, which is already given by the story. Take for instance, these kind of repetitions of information given by the questions get no professional skills mark on analysis because there isn't any analysis, there isn't any evaluations that's shown in the answer. Instead, highlight the root cause, pick up the reason behind the changes. For instance, if you were to evaluate on the finding of a KPI such as cost per treatment, and you noticed the cost per treatment show an increasing trend or at a higher range comparing to the budget, we may start presenting the answer, highlighting the finding, higher cost per treatment. But that isn't enough, guys, until you go on to highlight the root cause and say it's likely due to or be explained by showing the root cause of a subject matter or findings. That would show a good analysis skills. And other than that, should high cost per treatment that reflected certain root cause, is the root cause show a strength or a sign of weaknesses, you may want to carry on to extend your elaboration. That will extend the evidences showing evaluation. So guys, that is how you deal with numerical analysis. As for those questions that not involving with numbers, not involving numerical analysis, it is purely a narrative kind of question based on a full text of scenario given in the exhibit. Guys, do not just define, do not just list out the pros and cons, which is advantages and disadvantages separately on the subject matter. That isn't about analysis, that isn't about evaluation. Instead, do debate each point of finding with respective pros and cons. In other words, on a particular findings, talk about on one hand what is happening, on the other hand what do you notice, and better still, if you see the pros and cons lead to a further depth of implication like achievements or the impact to the stakeholder expectation, the objectives of the company, extend the discussion talking about implication, that will be a good evidence of analysis and evaluation in depth. Example, despite the improvements in productivity. So on one hand, I'm saying something good about these performances. The new technology that lead to this improvement may lead to. So that seems to be the other side of the facts. So when you talk about one hand, which is the benefit of it, the other hand, the shortcoming, the challenges of it, that is what we call evaluation. Thirdly, how about skepticism? Well, according to the evidences shown in the examiner report that will be shown in a short while, this is another challenging professional skills that students may find difficult or have no clues how to demonstrate such a skill. Remember, the key elements of habits that students should create and cultivate. It's always coming with a questionable mindset. Always try to probe, always try to challenge, in a way, facts or statements that claim by somebody. Do not just strictly and blindly follow the statements claimed by someone. Always try to learn questioning. Always try to remain doubtful and curious about substance provided by somebody. So when you are able to see the object from another angle, that will be the essential elements to cultivate and to groom a skepticism habit. So what I mean is for tasks involving numerical analysis, do not just take the figure, do not just take the results for granted. Instead, do demonstrate the sense of curiosity, looking at what's behind the calculations, what's behind the assumptions that build this number. So looking at the assumptions, formulas, basis of the calculations adopted, comparisons that used, and the data itself. Looking around these components, which is usually provided behind the scenes of all the number, and ask yourself, are you happy with it? Is it agreeable? Are the assumptions realistic? Are the formula used free from any error? So one of the ways to demonstrate a writing skills based on this kind of numerical task is like the basis of measuring incident rate seems less convincing or seems to be doubtful, as that's where you challenged the validity of the measurements on such indicator. Guys, here is another suggestion for you in demonstrating a skepticism skills. It is to put down a challenging questions on doubts that you have in the mind based on any of the assumption or formulas that you found it is suspicious. In other words, it is perfectly fine to show the answer at the end in the form of questioning with question mark. As for those tasks that do not involve numerical analysis, do not just agree or disagree with the claim given by the stakeholder mentioned in the exhibit. What you should do, looking at the claims, connecting the claims with the fact, the substance, the environments given by all the exhibits and the scenarios given in the story, try to do matching to see if there is any conflicts, to see if there is any mismatched. Should you find any mismatch or any misalignment of whatever they claim, it seems to not substantiated by the surrounding environment. That is the evidences for you to raise the challenge on the validity and the logic of the claim. So one of the ways in demonstrating such skills on dealing with written answer is the achievement as claimed by the CEO is of doubtful. Dare to challenge, dare to raise the doubts on the claim made by anyone, and then come up with your questions, come up with your reason of the doubts. So this is how you convince the marker that you are demonstrating skepticism skills. Finally, commercial acumen. Well, that is one of the skills which it looks easier, but it may not be necessary so unless and until students really aware of the key elements that demonstrate such skills. Guys, demonstrating awareness on the organization and external factors. This is one of the important tips and the clue you need to rely upon closely. Secondly, look out for key issues that is given by the exhibit or in the scenarios. So what I mean by this, it's for those tasks involving numerical analysis, do not just judge the number by comparing the absolute size of it. Revenue of the first year comparing to the second year, if the amount increased by, let's say, twice the size, do not just draw and jump into conclusion and say the performance of the businesses got better. Do relate the figures instead to all the clues given, particularly relating these results, these numbers, to the surrounding environment, both the external and internal. Look around to see if the economy of the country or the market is in a boom or at a downturn. All these things will help to make a reasonable and a business sense judgment. Is it logical that the revenue has grown by double, given the fact that external environment is at such a stage? Then take a look at the internal environment. look around if the company have invested in any advanced technology to boost the productivity. So connecting these together, that will show commercial sense of acumen in drawing the judgment on the number. An example of the writing style for this, the trend of the performance depict the effect of recent recession. How do I know there's a recent recession? It must be mentioned in the scenario, in the exhibit. So that is how I connect the number which show the trend and the surrounding environment to make up a judgment in showing such elements of professional skills. As for those tasks involving without numerical analysis, do not just draw conclusion without linking to the scenario and the background of the question as mentioned a couple of times. Instead, please relate the findings to the surrounding environment, objectives, and other major concerns, which are mainly found in the first exhibit most of the time. So example for this, the KPI in use align with the stated objective of the company and go on. So how do I know whether this KPI as given is acceptable? How do I know? If it is acceptable, why? Well, the reason and the justifications could be relating to the surrounding environment, such as what is the objective of the firm? Is it on maximizing the profit, maximizing the return, or maximizing the wealth of the shareholders? These are the sorts that can convince and justify if this KPI is acceptable. And this kind of connectivity would show commercial acumen on it. Well, after looking at the tips on writing and producing the answers, showing the 4 types of the professional skills, let's take a look at what APM examining team says on September-December 2023 exam by looking at some of the extracts on the comment for professional skills marks in the report for questions 1. In simple, questions 1 in that exam setting, it's relating to a hospital, namely Eastland Hospital, and as well as ambulance service. In short, EHAS. If you look at the general comments from the examining team on the professional mark performances, it says clearly the professional skills mark is generally reflected the performance on the technical component of it. In other words, there is a high positive correlation between technical and professional skills marks. If technical mark is high, it also tends to have high professional skills marks. That is the first important findings. Second, most candidates would tend to be able to score pretty well on communication mark purely because by showing the answer, especially questions 1 in the right format, that already give you some of the communication skills mark, not without forgetting to mention with the proper style, structure, tune of language in use. Let's take a look at a more specific comment on questions 1 on professional skills marks. Firstly, part 1 of the requirement contains the requirement to demonstrate analysis and evaluation skills, which is what the students managed to score well. Secondly, on part 2, similarly apply on the testing of analysis and evaluation skills. Whereas, coming to part 2, there are certain room to demonstrate skepticism, whereas fewer score well. That seems to be an alarming signal for students of the upcoming examinations to take note. Many students in that particular exam sitting in these questions are not able to score well on this mark, mainly because they are unable to show with the right language, showing the kind of questioning skills to raise the doubts in demonstrating skepticism in the answer. So take note of this in the future examination. For part 3, commercial acumen is tested, and that isn't seems to be a problem looking at the comments given by the examining team. Finally, communications marks, communication skills would also be able to score well throughout the whole of this questions 1, based upon the reason and the findings as discussed a while ago. In conclusion, that is what the examining team says about professional skills marks. Candidates should be advised to focus on the requirements of each specific part of the question and ensuring each specific requirement are strictly followed. This is the tips to grab hold of the professional skills marks, which I will come to the conclusion in the short while of this video, showing you what you have to do in simple. Well, guys, after looking at what examining teams say, it's time to take a look at how exactly these questions looks like. For the purpose of this explanation, I will only take you through by looking at some relevant exhibits pertaining to the answer of part 1 that you have to respond in part of the report regarding performance management in NFPOs, not-for-profit organization, which is a common abbreviation in use. First and foremost, here are the first exhibit. You may want to pause this video, spend some time, take a look at what is given and mentioned over here. Guys, after reading, if you noticed, the first, the third paragraph are mainly describing about internal environment information about the hospital, whereas the middle one is more on the external environment. In a way, it is the pastel elements of findings. Why do you think information on environment is provided to you? Guys, the purpose of this video is not to demonstrate producing the full answer, but more importantly, it is to show you what are the types of professional skills that would be able to demonstrate based upon such information. You want to make a guess? Out of the 4 skills, what are the skills that will find useful and relevant by referring to this information? And the answer is commercial acumen, that you may grab these professional skills marks throughout all the 3 requirements by relating any facts, any findings back to the story, back to the environment of the external market, as well as what's happened within the organization. Looking at the second exhibit, which is likely to relate to part 1 of the requirement, again, pause the video, take a look at what is given. Well, after reading, you will notice this paragraph 1 talks about the background of the board member, including the newly appointed CEO. The second paragraph talks about the recent decision made by the CEO regarding a proposal about air ambulance services. For more detail, look out for Appendix 1. Finally, other than the information about the background of the board member, that once again is a form of internal environmental information that will form a clues for commercial acumen. The last paragraph, especially when you notice the sentence is talking about you are being asked, you are being required. And in this case, this is where the task is embedded over here. You have to provide advice on the following problems pertaining to performance measurement and performance management for such nature of organization that is not for profit. Well, again, if you think straight to the point on the answer planning, in each of these heading of your answer, there will be 2 paragraphs of points or findings that you need to elaborate. What do you think about multiple objectives to be a problem in measuring the performance? What do you think about the multiple objective of managing the performance of this hospital? So these will be the findings. And again, other than the technical component, do not forget to demonstrate all the professional skills marks, including commercial acumen and many others, while demonstrating the content of the answers in producing the answer to respond to part 1 of the requirement. Well, it's a little bit of the detailed information regarding what's in Appendix 1. Well, spend some time, take a look at these emails written by the CEO to the board member. You will notice The summary on these emails shows about the background regarding the air ambulance proposal. Then the other part is the decision made by the CEO with her justification. And lastly, the last part of this email is to remind you what exactly are our commitment, our missions to run and provide these services to the user. Again, what are the professional skills that you may grab hold based upon this information? Well, here is the answer. This content of the email would have given a lot of clue to pick up facts, to pick up root cause on the incidents or the decisions made by the CEO. That will provide the room to demonstrate analysis and evaluation skills, last but not least, to challenge, to question the validity on the conclusion and the justification made by the CEO. That is how the evidences that you could use in demonstrating all the skills that was mentioned and detected right here. Guys, after looking at the examiner report and the demonstrations on part of the informations in questions 1, what do you learn from the examiner report regarding professional skills marks? Well, here's the answer. You could have maximized your professional skills marks if you just need to answer the question as required. Guys, this sounds easier than that. It looks easier. However, it will only be easy to apply when you continuously practicing by picking up the answering habit as discussed a while ago. I hope with this video, it gives you a better ideas in demonstrating different types of professional skills with different types of answering habits. With that, good luck in your examination. Thank you for watching.